Hi, everyone. Marimba Malyans here from the Hill Community Development Corporation. I'm President and CEO of the Hill CDC, and we are here today to talk a little bit about the New Pathways Project, also known as RAISE, that's happening in the Historic Hill District. I'm joined by Bridget Bethia, who is lead strategist of ULEAD, and she's going to be walking you through in great detail what this project is about. So let me first give you a little bit of context. When we completed the Greater Hill District Master Plan way back when, we identified pretty early on that infrastructure was a challenge. Well, in 2018, which seems like a long time ago now, we decided to formulate what is called the Commercial Redevelopment Task Force. And that group began to advocate for infrastructure investments in the Hill District. We were fortunate to get an investment here in the Hill District to ensure that we are able to move forward on some of the infrastructure needs that we have. So this project, the New Pathways Project, is about intersections, sidewalks, steps, traffic calming, and a lot more. Bridget is going to walk you through all of the points of information that you need to give us your input. We are working under a critical deadline of September 11th. We need your input by September 11th. So we are trying to reach you however we can. And so Bridget is going to walk through the different infrastructure investments, whether that be intersections, sidewalks, steps, and/or traffic calming measures, so that you can provide input online or in person. You can also walk right into our office at the Hill CDC in order to give us your feedback. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Bridget.
Thanks, Marimba. I have the best job in the world, and that is getting to talk to you all and to share more information about this project. The New Pathways Project, or RAISE, as you'll be hearing it called, really is focusing on promoting investment in neighborhoods that have historically suffered from some discriminatory policies. And so this project is really focused on that in the Hill District specifically. And so we're focused on the public right-of-way, and we'll get into a little bit more about what that means in a moment. So your input is important because we're talking about improving safety, connecting neighborhoods, and a direct investment in the Hill District, and supporting local growth. Being able to see your input really the changes happen right on the streets that you walk in transit or are in the wheelchair, all those things on a day-to-day basis. So we're excited about that. As Marimba mentioned, that the feedback is needed no later than September 11th, 2025. That, my friends, is a hard deadline to be able to get that information in. But up until that time, we are, again, open, ready, and excited to hear your feedback. I love timelines, and so we wanted to be really thoughtful about you all understanding kind of where we're at and where we're going. For the past couple months, we really have been talking to different stakeholders and community members, and we've been steeped in the part of the process that centers around stakeholder and community feedback. So we're in the engagement phase, again, wanting to learn from you, needing that impact by September 11th, but that takes us to the end of September, where all of the environment documents and everything needs to be submitted for approval. There's a long period of time in between that, but moving into September of 2026, that's the deadline with federal deadline with USDOT, or the U.S. Department of Transportation. That's the federal arm of PennDOT, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, but that requires that all design activities are completed. That means that we need to have all construction approvals, all call for bids need to be complete. Construction would start in 2027, early 2027, with that being completed in September of 2031. So that construction time is a bit longer, but again, as Marimba shared, right, this is a way that we'll be able to see some direct investment and changes in the neighborhood. So about the New Pathways Project team, the city of Pittsburgh serves as the project lead for this project, but that's in conjunction with, again, a really robust and expert team to be able to support this work. The Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, as I mentioned, Larson Design Group, the Hill CDC, that's really focused on the stakeholder engagement and the community engagement aspect with the support of Evolve Environment and Architecture and ULEAD. So let's get into some level setting so that we're all on the same page. What is public right of way? A public right of way is really land that's reserved for public use for transportation that includes streets, sidewalks, curbs, ramps, city steps, really, and all those things associated. Think about the things that we experience on a day-to-day basis along our routes that really impact the greater good. So what is included in the public right-of-way? Think about sidewalks and sidewalk repairs, ADA compliant curb ramps, bus stops and shelters, city steps, speed bumps, humps, calming measures. You'll hear that a lot during my presentation, as well as street lighting upgrades, crosswalk enhancements, and street resurfacing. There's other things, but these are some of the major things that show up in the public right-of-way. What's not included in the public right of way? It's just as important to know what's not included as to what is so that we can give the proper feedback. So you want to think about things like in private residences, porches, stairs, balconies, driveways, retaining walls, fences, all the things kind of listed here that don't fall within the public right of way, whether it be a private residence or a private business. So Rays in the Hill District, drilling down even further and thinking about how these improvements will show up, we're talking about the lower hill, the middle hill, and the upper hill areas. And so when we're talking about the new Pathways Project in Rays, we're really talking specifically about these areas. Again, all to make the streets more safe and accessible and more walkable for those who are in the area. We'll also talk a lot about sidewalks, and sidewalks show up as being kind of those that are low priority, moderate priority, and high priority. You can see some examples here with low priority being maybe some cracks, maybe a little difficult to traverse, like let's say if you have a stroller or something like that, or you're in a wheelchair, but generally you can still get across them. Moderate, you're looking at more cracks, more dips. This may be a time where you see people who may need to be in the street to avoid these particular areas. And high priorities show up in spaces where maybe there is no sidewalk at all. So just as we're going through the presentation, be thinking about what you may be experiencing as it relates to sidewalks as well. So bump outs and curb extensions. These things really help to improve safety. They help to calm traffic and overall to enhance the streetscapes. If you look at that picture that shows up on the bottom left, the one that's kind of tilted, that's a bump out in East Liberty, but it's a great example of where the cars are able to park inside of that area. The bump out creates a shorter distance between one part of the street to another for those who are crossing. You see the ADA compliant ramp there. Just the ability to be able to transit this area easier for cars to be able to see pedestrians and for pedestrians also to be able to see cars. Bottom right is one that's a little bit more fancy, but also a bump out nonetheless. And then up on the top, you're looking at an area that could possibly use a bump out, right? When you see this area, if I was standing here and wanted to cross the street, it would be a lot easier and shorter route if there was a bump out here, or a lot easier to get on and off the bus. So we're going to really dig down deep into talking about Center Avenue and the Center Avenue corridor and improvements that could happen along those areas. Now, we are well aware that that is not the only place that we need improvements. And so again, we want to hear from you and learn about what are some other areas that could be a priority. But we'll spend a lot of time today really talking about this. So we're going to be talking about Center Avenue, De Vere Street and Dinwiddie, the Center Avenue Business District, Center Avenue, Kirkpatrick and Elmore, Center Avenue at Reed Street, the Chauncey Street Steps, and then Chauncey and Bedford that's not shown on this map. So we really need your help to prioritize these right-of-way enhancements. Other things that we can be thinking about are green infrastructure, ways that we can make the space more beautiful, public art, public plazas, and really expanded sidewalks improvements along the way. So this is just an example of what green infrastructure and landscaping can look like, but it also helps us to manage flooding when it rains and helps us, just to be able to manage those things. All right, so we're going to get started and then dig deep and talk a little bit about the Center Avenue, De Vere Street, and Dinwiddie Street intersection. So again, looking at this map, you can kind of see what current state looks like. That current state is where this particular intersection shows up as about a 5-way intersection and can be confusing for folks who are transiting this area. Where the recommendation or possibilities come in is creating a raised crosswalk on Center Avenue and realigning Dinwiddie and De Villiers to align those intersections, and then reclaiming a portion of Dinwiddie Street to create open space along Center Avenue. And you can see that with that little tree area on the slide. And so this would be the recommendation in this area. This is showing you kind of a vantage point, kind of looking up towards Center Avenue from Dinwiddie Street, and just kind of further illustrating that, you know, this is a confusing space as it relates to turning, walking. If you're in a wheelchair, if you're, you know, any type of transiting this area can be very, very confusing. All right, the next location that we're going to be talking about is the Center Avenue Business District. So we've added kind of where we're at, showing Big Tom's Barbershop and showing that area as well. And so recommendations or possibilities here really show up in creating bump outs and high visibility crosswalks along Center Avenue at Grove Street, creating continuous bump outs along Center Avenue between Aaron Street and Addison, providing high visibility crosswalks at Addison and Aaron Street, and installing bump outs along Aaron Street. And so just overall creating a safer environment for those who are transiting this area to be able to flow through the business district. The next location we're going to talk about is Center Avenue, Kirkpatrick Street, and Elmore. And so again, this is another area that shows up almost as a five-way intersection with Mahon coming into Center Avenue as well. And so the recommendation or possibility here is really creating bump outs and high visibility crosswalks. You'll hear that a lot during the presentation, and creating bump outs and high visibility crosswalks along Elmore and then at Center Avenue and Kirkpatrick, and dead ending Mahon Street. As you can see where Mahon sits leading into Center Avenue, creating a sidewalk there and then some open space in that area as well. So this is kind of showing you where Mahon goes into Center Avenue, where Central Baptist Church sits in this area as well. And so this would be the area that would potentially be dead-ended, and there would be some open space and sidewalks that were added to this area as well. The next location that we're going to chat about is Center Avenue and Reed Street intersection. I've shared with everyone that this is an area that I myself have walked and have almost been hit twice. So this is another area that can show up as a dangerous area for pedestrians, for folks who are walking. We've also learned that there's children, lots of children who walk in this area as well. But the recommendation here is really adding high visibility crosswalks at the intersection and creating bump outs along Center Avenue to allow for a safer pedestrian crossing. And then this is just showing you some photos of what it looks like at current state. You can see the crosswalks are really tough to be able to kind of see and where they are. And then again, thinking about those sidewalks and crosswalks in this area. Additionally, the city is looking at addressing stoplights and timing for those stoplights really along the Center Avenue corridor, but in this area as well. The next location we're going to talk about is the Chauncey Street Steps. This is located just right up the street from Reed and Center that we just talked about. And in this particular area, the recommendation here is to replace the pedestrian staircase and lighting at the stairs, and also replacing sidewalks along Center Avenue, and then creating some open public space there just adjacent to the sidewalks. So this particular sidewalk already has been leading to the Chauncey Street Steps, has been improved, but again, if you see the steps, they do need to be repaired, and it really isn't a lot of lighting there. And so creating a safer environment is going to be really key with this particular infrastructure upgrade. And so this young man that you see here walking up the steps, we also did see him up on Bedford Avenue. And so again, these steps are being used by community members, and we want to make sure that they are safe and usable for them. And this is just kind of showing the area where the open space could be, leading to the walkway back to the Chauncey Street Steps. The next location we're going to chat about is Bedford Avenue at the Chauncey Street intersection. We see this really as an extension of the Chauncey Street Steps. So if you are using the steps from Center Avenue, going up to Bedford Avenue, or anywhere in between, the possibility here is really adding a sidewalk to just make that safer so folks didn't have to walk in the street, and to be able to get from the one part of the Hill District at the top all the way down to the bottom at Center Avenue. And this is just showing the businesses that sit in that area, as well as kind of the grade of that particular of Chauncey Street, and how on the left-hand side of that bottom picture is where the sidewalk, the possibility of the sidewalk could go. Right, last area we're going to talk about, but certainly not least, is the Center Avenue. And this is really from 6th Street to Crawford Street, close to the arena. We know that a lot of people transit this area to be able to go to games or events or different things that are happening in the area. And just along this stretch of Center Avenue, the recommendation is pretty much the same, as to really create better visibility as it relates to crosswalks, but also to widen the median to ease traffic and make it easier for crossing the street in this area. And I'll just go through these slides. This is just kind of showing along that route, just because it's a pretty long route, getting a chance to kind of show you the different spaces along there. And again, starting or ending at 6th Avenue, depending on the direction that you're going. All right, so to bring it all back, your input is extremely important. One, because it helps us to prioritize what's most important and how the engineers should be looking at the work that they're doing. But again, going back to improving safety and connecting our neighborhoods continues to be a priority in the space. Feedback is due no later than September 11th. And again, we're really looking at you to be able to get that feedback to us. So what's next? What's needed? So we have a stakeholder meeting upcoming, and we will continue to have some community meetings upcoming as well. But you can visit the Hill District, visit hilldistrict.org/raise, and follow at My Hill District on social media platforms to stay updated. You can also give feedback directly on sidewalks at the engage page.gov, new pathways at the New Pathways Project, and that's the city of Pittsburgh, as well as giving feedback on intersections at www.hilldistrict.org/raise. And then you can also tell a friend, continue to let people know what's going on, all of the exciting possibilities that are going to be happening and upcoming in the Hill District, and continue to share with us what your recommendations are. Marimba, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Great job, Bridget. That was a mouthful. There was so much information to cover, but it is extremely important that you all revisit this video and make sure that you're taking in all of the information, because the deadline is real, and we really need to make sure we hear from you. Everything that we do is guided by community, and this is no different. So we want to hear from you sooner rather than later. All righty, we'll be signing off now, but you can always find us on social media at My Hill District, and you can always walk right in our office on Center Avenue. Talk to you soon.